Hi there, folks. This is Adam with 8 Badge Gaming coming to you today with a new deck for a new week. By the popular vote, today we are going to be teching the Noivern Garbodor deck. Now, this is a deck that we saw crop up on the Hey Fonte Pokemon page on Facebook, and we were quite interested in it overall. The pilot of the deck was able to take it to a top 8 at a League Cup between the ability shutdown between the Garbodor and the item shutdown from the Noivern, but we're going to get into the details there now by reviewing the deck itself, or rather teching the deck itself. Now, with the deck, we're running a 4-3 line of the Breakthrough Noibat and the Noivern GX. Now, the Breakthrough Noibat is the Noibat of choice, mainly because of its mysterious beam attack. It is a single energy. It allows you to flip a coin, and if heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. Now, we're not likely to use the Gust attack, which is a double energy attack for 20 damage, but what we're looking at here is Noibats are actually fighting resistant. So that means that against matchups like Buzzwole and the like, with fighting as the primary attackers, we're going to actually take a little less damage, and that's going to give us the time to set up against jet punches and the like. Now, it is still a 60 HP basic, so 2 bench jet punches, where there's no weakness or resistance applied there, will still KO a benched Noibat, but we're looking to evolve as quickly as possible because we're looking at our Noivern GX. Now, this is a stage 1 evolution, and it's a dragon type with 200 HP. And the attacks are a little bit harder to use because of the different types of energy required, but they're very powerful attacks overall. When we look at our Distort attack, the primary attack that we're likely going to be using with this deck, it's a Dark and 1 for 50 damage, and your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand during the next turn. Now, this can be useful in a variety of ways. It could keep your opponent from attaching tools to their Pokemon. It can keep your opponents on Buzzwoles from using Max Elixirs and Beast Rings. It can shut down things like Puzzle of Times against Zoroark. Overall, there's a good bit of utility with the Distort attack. Next up, we have our Sonic Volume, which is 120 damage for a Psychic, a Darkness, and a 1. Your opponent can't play any special energy cards from their hand during their next turn. With this particular attack, if we can get it suited up for a Sonic Volume against a, say, Zoroark deck that doesn't have any energy in play, we are looking to take full advantage of them not essentially being able to attack. They're not going to be able to attach anything like a double colorless energy, a strong energy, a splash energy, etc. Those are the primary energies that we're looking at shutting down, but also the one of beast energy in things like the Buzzwole decks or even, say, Ultra Necrozma. Now, finally, we're looking at the GX attack, which is Boom Burst GX, which is also a Psychic, a Dark, and 1. This attack does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, but don't apply weakness or resistance to benched Pokemon. Now, this is good if we're able to get any bit of spread damage in, if our opponent's able to retreat a couple Pokemon to keep them from being KO'd. Boom Burst can still end up taking a straight KO against our opponents. Now, next up, we are running a 2 of Tapu Lele, and the main reason we're only going with a 2 of is we are trying to shut down abilities. Not many decks anymore are looking to run a 3 of, where we do have things like Mysterious Treasure in addition to the Ultra Balls. We're not as hard up for trying to get a Lele with just Ultra Balls anymore, or trying to get one in hand overall. So we're able to shave the count down. Now, Tapu Lele, as you all know, is a 170 HP basic Pokemon. We're using it primarily for its Wonder Tag ability, which is when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. It also has an applicable attack with Energy Drive, which is a double colorless requirement, or just 2 energy requirement overall, and it does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both your active and your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance, otherwise this would be a mega powerhouse against things like Buzzwole, for example. But we do actually have the ability to use the Tapu Cure GX in this deck as well, which is a single Psychic, and it allows you to heal all damage from 2 of your benched Pokemon. Now, next up we are running a 3 and then a 1-2 split on the Trubbish and Garbodors in this deck. Now we're running a 3 of Acid Spray Trubbish, where we are using Psychic Energy in this deck. That is the best in slot, where it can allow you to hit for 10 damage for a single Psychic Energy, and on the heads of a coin flip, you can discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now we are running a 1 of Trash Avalanche Garbodor, which allows you to hit for 20 damage for each item in your opponent's discard for just a single Psychic Energy. It is also 120 HP Stage 1, so it is still getting KO'd by a lot of attacks in the format right now, but it's still going to be a strong attack overall. We do also have the ability to suit up a Garbodor, if necessary, for the Acid Spray attack, which is a Psychic and 2 for 70 damage. It lets you flip a coin, and if heads, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now we are also running a 2 of Garbotoxin Garbodor, and this is just going to help hate down a lot of decks with the Garbotoxin ability. Now Garbotoxin reads that if this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached to it, each Pokemon in play in each player's hand and in each player's discard pile has no abilities other than Garbotoxin. Now, we do technically have the ability to attack with it if we suit it up enough, which is Offensive Bomb for a Psychic and 3 for 60 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused and poisoned. Now, we're using this Garbodor, again, primarily for the Garbotoxin ability. Between Garbotoxin and the Distort from our Noivern, if we have the ability to shut down our opponent's abilities and then keep them from using items like Field Blower to clear that Garbotoxin off, we're going to be able to keep them very restricted. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive on into our trainers here now, starting off with the non-tool items. Now, in this deck, we are running a 2 of Enhanced Hammer, which lets you discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. This couples well with the Noivern, keeping your opponent from putting special energies back down, because you can, say, knock a DCE off of a Zoroark that might already have one, and then just keep your opponent from attaching them any further with the Noivern's attacks. Then we are running a 3 of Mysterious Treasure. This lets us tutor any Pokemon out of our deck other than Noibat itself. It lets us hit our Noivern where it is a Dragon Pokemon. We can get our Lele's, our Trubbishes, and either of our Garbodors. Now, this just lets you discard a card from hand in addition to the Mysterious Treasure, and if you do, you search your library for a Psychic or Dragon Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Next up, we are running a 1 of Rescue Stretcher. With any deck where we're trying to keep Garbodors in play to keep our opponent locked down as much as possible, a Rescue Stretcher to be able to buy back a Garbodor from the discard direct to hand, or to shuffle some number of Pokemon from our discard back into our deck is always going to be useful. Rounding out our items, we have a 4 of Ultra Ball, which is just a utility card overall. We can use Ultra Ball and discard 2 additional cards from our hand to tutor any Pokemon from our deck, put it in our hand, and shuffle our deck afterwards. This is going to let us just assist in our setup. It works just like Mysterious Treasure in this deck. That allows us to get the Pokemon that we need to make sure that we're going to be able to not only attack, but shut down our opponent's abilities. Now, in this deck, we are also running a 2 of Stadium, which is 2 copies of Parallel City. Now, this card is going to be used to either shut down our opponent's bench itself by limiting them to having only 3 benched Pokemon overall, or occasionally we will turn the card the other way to reduce the damage of grass, fire, or water Pokemon on our opponent's side by 20. Now, next we're going to go ahead and dive on into our trainers here, or rather our supporters. So we are running a 2 of Acerola in this deck, where Noivern is only a stage 1, being able to put a damaged Noivern back in hand, as well as all the energy associated with it, and then, say, evolve a secondary Noibat or something of the sorts, is going to be extremely strong. It's going to prevent people from knocking out our Noivern, which is, again, our primary attacker, and it's just going to be a good supporter for us overall. Next up, we are running a 2 of Bridget, and this is going to allow us to just get that initial setup. We're looking to get Trubbishes and Noibats onto the bench as quickly as possible, and the Bridget is going to allow for that. Where we aren't running any EXs, we're just going to be able to get 3 basic Pokemon from our deck and put them onto our bench. Next up, we are running a 1 of Cynthia, and this is going to allow you to shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw 6 cards. This is going to be useful if there's cards that we do not want to discard from our hand, and just continue to give us draw support overall. Next up, we're running a 3 of Guzma. Now, this allows us to switch one of our opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and if we do, we switch our active with one of our benched Pokemon. Now, this is going to be useful in getting damaged Pokemon up out of their bench to allow us to finish them off primarily, or to allow us to hate down on specific Pokemon that our opponent may have that are going to be support Pokemon. Things like Diancie or Octillery when we don't have a Garbotoxin active, being able to put up anything that might already have damage on it overall is just going to be a strong effect. Now, next up, we are running 4 of N. Now, this is generally a must with any Garbotoxin deck, because we are looking to just, if our opponent gets ahead in the game, end them down to a low number of cards in hand. With Garbotoxin active, we're shutting down the primary draw support Pokemon like Octillery and our Zoroarks that we might be facing, and overall it's going to just help us disrupt our opponent's game plan. Following our N, we have a 2 of Sycamore, which is just a strong draw supporter overall. It allows you to discard your hand to then draw 7 cards. So this is just going to give you the ability to completely refuel your hand as necessary, and potentially discard things that might be dead in hand overall. Moving on into our Pokemon tools, we are running a 2 of Choice Band. This, coupled with our Noivern, means that we're looking at 3-shotting a lot of things while actively distorting, or leading with a Distort that's likely hitting for 80 damage, followed up by a secondary attack for 120 damage using the Sonic Volume. So Sonic Volume plus the 30 from Choice Band is 150, and if we add in the 80 from an initial Distort, for example, we're looking at 230 damage, which is KOing quite literally everything that's being used in the format actively right now. Next up, we have a 4 of Floatstone, and this is going to allow you to get free retreat on any Pokemon that this is attached to. Now, generally, we're looking to get this on our Garbotoxin Garbodor as much as possible, because it does have a triple retreat cost. So you do have to discard 3 energy from it to be able to get it out of the active. Floatstone is going to enable you to get it out of the active for free, so it keeps you from getting stuck with a Garbodor or Trubbish in the active overall. Now, sometimes you do just want to attach it to a, say, Tapu Lele or something of the like to get it out of the active, but the good thing about Noivern is it has 0 retreat cost already, so we're not looking to attach it to a Noivern at any time. Finally, in our tools, we have a 3 of Wishful Baton. Now, this is a tool that if the Pokemon this is attached to is your active Pokemon and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, we're able to move up to 3 basic energy from that Pokemon to one of our benched Pokemon. Now, what we're looking to do is throw a Wishful Baton onto, say, it's a 2 of Wishful Baton. I do apologize for messing up my numbers there. But we're looking to throw a Wishful Baton onto a Noivern that's already damaged, so that way when it gets KO'd, we're able to move the energy onto a Noibat or Noivern on our bench. So that way we have another Noivern suited up and ready to go right off the bat. Now, finally, we get into our energy, and with this deck, we're running a 7 of Darkness Energy, 4 of Psychic Energy. Now, the reason we're not using any special energies, such as a Rainbow Energy, is mainly to play with that Wishful Baton. Wishful Baton can't move a Rainbow Energy from a KO'd Pokemon onto the bench Pokemon, so we could run, say, 4 full straight Rainbow Energies if we were ignoring Wishful Baton entirely, but it is going to allow us to have a secondary attacker ready to go if we have a secondary Noivern ready to go. So overall, we're kind of keeping ourselves consistent on the basic energy to make sure that Wishful Baton works. So that clues up the actual deck itself. We do look forward to playing it. I think this is going to be a fun deck. I do know that Noivern is a fan favorite for some of our local crew, particularly I know Tristan, for example, loves his Noivern deck, and I hope to represent the Noivern deck properly. I hope to take it to a successful record overall. It does look like it's going to be a fun deck to play, and I know against Tristan myself, I've had some trouble with the deck because it just hates on everything. So with that said, we do always greatly appreciate your viewership here at 8 Badge Gaming. If you have any suggestions for future decks, you have any questions, comments, or queries, please feel free to reach out to us either through our Facebook page or by messaging us directly. And with that said, thank you very much for tuning in, and this is Adam with 8 Badge Gaming signing off.